So I'm going to tell my story, or attempt to tell my story, in 5 minutes. So if you want to know more, come see me afterwards. But we titled this From Baptist Pastor to Woke AF, and that'll make more sense as we go along. So I actually was not always a Baptist pastor. I grew up in a ELCA Lutheran, those are the good Lutherans, environment. So my dad is a Lutheran pastor, and then I went extreme far right. And so we'll just skip all of that. And I moved from North Carolina to Texas right after graduating Gardner-Webb University in 2011 to study a master's in theology with a worship leadership emphasis. So that's what I want to do. If you are at all familiar with the megachurch, multi-site, evangelical based churches, that's where I saw my career going. So then I met Sid when I moved to Arlington, Texas, and he was the first queer person who just challenged me in my life. And so Sid is like a big brother to me, best friend to this day, lives in Seattle now. But he challenged me and he said, "Are your beliefs regurgitated or do you actually believe them? Either way, you need to figure it out, because I'm sick of seeing all the shit that you're posting on Facebook and we're not talking about it in person." So after that, I was at a small town, large church, and the next step for me was to start a church in an arts neighborhood of urban Dallas. And so I did that, and through my training, I was really challenged on what it means to engage in your neighborhood, really connect with the business owners, everybody in the neighborhood, and really be a part of that neighborhood. So I came across United Black Element, which was the resource, or a part of our LGBT Resource Center in Dallas, and specifically a program for Black same-gender loving men and trans women. And I experienced church there. I experienced welcoming and being loved, even though I'm a straight cis white male, and I felt loved in that space, and that really challenged me. So Jelinski, the program director, and I sat down, and we talked about creating a space where we really address the systemic oppression caused by the church at large to the LGBTQ community at large. And so we created this discussion group, and I was not prepared for what happened at that discussion group. That night, there were 8 individuals from United Black Element who were young adults, and they had been kicked out of their homes. You know the story. This is why we're here. They had been kicked out of their so-called Christian homes when they came out at one point or another. They all had the same baseline in their story. And I had never heard this before in my life. I did not know that LGBTQ youth homelessness existed until this day in 2015. And so when I tell you that I did not sleep for 3 nights, I really did not sleep for 3 nights. And I got on the internet and I started researching, and I found True Colors Fund, and I came to a crossroads. And it's funnier when the GIF actually works and the guy's like sweating. But basically that's what it boiled down to. Do I leave this all behind? Do I leave my comfort zone? Or do I risk it all? Do I risk my network and do this thing that I know deep down that I'm supposed to do? So you know the rest of the story because I'm standing here in front of you, but I reached out to my councilman who is here today, Adam Medrano, and he chaired the LGBT task force for the mayor. And we sat down, and he volunteered me to lead a team. So we hit the ground running around the question, if you are an LGBTQ youth experiencing homelessness in Dallas, where do you go? And from that, in 2016, Outlast Youth was formed. And so Outlast Youth, at its core, fights the systemic oppression from churches. So we do have a faith-based team, educating communities of faith to not even reject their children in the first place. And we're working with Texas legislation here coming up in 2019. But I can clearly tell you today that the decision to leave it all behind and to be considered an ally and a friend was totally worth it. And to leave a marriage behind and just everything that came with it was worth it. And I am woke as